Ben, Sam, and Ken are on separate journeys to defeat the menacing Vile Dragon. Let's just say luck isn't on their side. If only there was a way for them to find each other and band together. Well, that's why there's Band. It's a mobile app that allows people to come together using common interests. With Band, you can find fellow gamers, chat, schedule gaming sessions, and conduct polls. Stage epic battles with friends while sharing videos and photos along the way. So try Band today. Band. Be together.
Reserve time. Radiant's pick.
Good evening and welcome back, boys and girls. This is the C Star League. My name is Toffee's, bringing you all the action here tonight for our late game, joined as always by my intrepid partner in crime, Gorgon the Wonder Cow. How are you doing tonight?
Doing very well. Happy to be here casting my alma mater in on the undefeated Spartan, which I believe they were defeated once. But let's put that aside.
Speaking of which, let's talk briefly about our records. Then we'll talk a little bit to our sponsors, and then we'll jump in to this draft. So this is a big game. UT Austin 8-0 on the year so far. Michigan State 8-1. We'll talk about why that happened and why that's relevant in just a second. But first, I do want to give a big shout out to our sponsors. Band Gaming. It's a social app and the primary social app of the CSL with many features such as creating groups, boards, calendar functions, polls, chat, and as of recent call functionality. So definitely check them out. You can go to band.us/home and download them or get them from Google or Apple Store, as well as join the CSL League. Obviously, a big shout out to Twitch for making this all possible. And finally, a big welcome back to Asus. We're super happy to have them with us again this year for the 2016-2017 season. They're the provider of everything esports, from all of their wonderful products: monitors, laptops, routers, graphics cards, motherboards, you name it, they do it. Make gaming great again with Republic of Gamers. All right, Gorgon, let's talk about these two teams. So basically, this is an interesting bracket, right? We had two teams, and I believe it was Princeton and Michigan that were in this bracket and DQ'd themselves from the rest of the season. So that gave all of these teams an automatic 2-win, which makes their records look very strong. Princeton, arguably not a huge loss. They were sort of a mid-tier team. Michigan, though, very good last year. Made it to the Final Four, but apparently have had Final two, but have had some dysfunction since that run last year. So what that says is these two teams are still doing well, maybe not as good as their records dictate. Worth noting, UT Austin, Gorgon, I don't know if you knew this, they were D2 last year and are still undefeated in their first ever D1 season. That's gotta mean a lot, right?
Yeah, well, you got to keep in mind, too, a lot of teams that we saw had heavy turnover last year with graduations, including U of M. I think every team that reached the Final Four last year had heavy turnover. So even though they were in Division II last year, it may be a benefit to them that they had a year of playing together without having significant turnover, a year wiser and a year more experience over most of their competition.
Absolutely, and they always say don't mess with Texas. The guys who want to do that are the almost undefeated Spartans. Currently 8-1, they've only dropped a game, but both these teams obviously on pace to the playoffs, and this is going to be a big win for them to sort of not only determine where they get seeded in the playoffs, but also which of them is the one that people need to be scared of going into this. Seeding is very important here at the CSL playoffs. It really can impact your future in terms of going to land finals. So they definitely want to win these games. Let's talk draft so far. Luna picked up number 1 out of the box. Not a huge surprise, Gorgon. She's been absolutely popular. The other one that I find interesting is Underlord, who was completely off the radar until recently, it seemed like, has become either a first ban or a first pick, it seems like, almost overnight.
Well, remember, this is the first CSL week that we've had where Underlord was even pickable. We haven't really seen the impact of Underlord on CSL play because he just wasn't a legal grab until December during the mid-season break. So Underlord, I talked to a lot of pros about Underlord in Boston, and almost unilaterally, kind of what they came back with was, yeah, it's pretty much like it doesn't really matter if they add him to CM because we probably won't use him very much. And that's really what we've seen from professional play. But in pub play, he's made a big splash. He gets picked a lot more in high-level games, which tells you that there is a lot that you can do with him in terms of nuance, and he has an over 50% win rate there.
I gotcha. Now, is it because of his just ability to sort of, do you run him as a support transition, or do you run him as a core right now?
You run him as an offlaner typically, so you can run him as a semi-support. I don't think he's very successful in that route, but as an offlaner, he has a lot of ability to catch up by running around with Firestorm. He also has a lot of ability to kind of play defensive thanks to the Atrophy Aura, and if you get early levels on him, you're able to do IO style ganks with Dark Rift. You're able to push very effectively with that Atrophy Aura. And then the big Pit of Malice, even with not that many levels, can be very effective at controlling opponents.
Absolutely, lots of control. Speaking of control, they grab the Rubik as well, the Weaver. Team Texas is going to be very hard to kill and sort of get a beat on. On the opposite side, speaking of survivability and frustration, Sand King and Dying both coming out here. Now, Luna is a hero that has become insanely popular. In fact, I tweeted about 2 hours ago that to me, one of the most demoralizing sights or animations in Dota 2 is the animation of Luna pushing a tier 3. Because at that point, she just seems unstoppable. How do you prevent her from getting too strong? Because it seems like every game that we see with her, if you let her get past that 30-minute mark, just what do you do?
So you don't usually see Luna picked up by herself in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
You usually see her played with a Shadow Demon, which they ban themselves, or something more like a Vengeful Spirit, something that has aura stacking potential, a Drow Ranger sometimes, if you're willing to go Glass Cannon for your build. She does have a dip-off moment in the mid-game. She will usually get up about 2 core items and then be able to push some towers, but then you really need her to get her around 4 or 5 items before she has the survivability and damage to stand up to traditional cores that maybe scale more linearly. And her big weakness is that she's squishy in lane. She historically has needed a tri-lane, which is why we didn't see a lot of Luna through the last maybe 2 years. And ever since around TI last summer, she's been extremely popular. She did take some nerfs since we last saw CSL. And she has dropped off a little bit in popularity since then, but she's still at all ranges of play, like a 55-ish% win rate, and she's played in higher ranked games in almost 1 in 3 games.
Okay. So
more skilled players are more comfortable with it.
Are you saying the stop point is when all you can do is sort of break her during that little lull that she has mid-game, or is the key locking her out early, locking out the support that's picked to go along with her, or just winning fast?
There are a couple strategies you can do, right? You can hit her in the lane very, very hard, which can be effective, but if you fail, then you've doubled up her speed, right? You can split push very effectively, because while she does play somewhat defensively, this is a talk Zingle and I had on Tuesday. Right, she does have glaives, which can be defensive, but they're much more effective as aggressive pushers. So if she's constantly having to push out lanes instead of towers, then you can kind of get away with it there as well. Another way that you can kind of shut a Luna down is by having a lot of people that close gaps on her very quickly and can blow her up.
Gotcha.
So even with a BKB, a lot of physical damage can do the job before she's able to get Eclipse off, before she's able to get a lot of physical damage off.
Okay, so now we see the Templar Assassin obviously picked up to go against the Shadow Fiend in the mid. A nice pickup in the early game, right? Because she's going to have a great time with that refraction. Shadow Fiend can't harass her back as much as he traditionally can with other mids. The problem is, doesn't that refraction sort of cease to be relevant with the Sand King and the Undying and the Luna multiple sources of damage? Like, is she going to struggle in the mid game because the refraction's not going to matter as much?
10 seconds
Well,
to go.
it's possible. But Caustic Finale has very slow ticks. So Caustic Finale doesn't lift refraction super quick. So in a team fight, you're probably going to have it lifted from major sources before Caustic Finale lifts more than half of them.
I was more worried about the Sandstorm ticks combined with the Caustic, and obviously Luna's going to be bouncing glaives all over the place.
Yeah, you're not usually going to see a core Sand King, and this is probably going to be an offlane Sand King. You don't usually see a core Sand King. Sandstorm in the middle of a fight. It's not a very good use of his time, right? Like he can do a lot more damage than he can do with that. So although you do have the tool to lift refraction, you're just not likely to see it utilized in that way. Of course, you do have to worry about zombies potentially from Tombstone, but that's also probably not going to be the biggest concern. And I do think TA versus Shadow Fiend is a pretty favorable matchup in the mid for the reasons that you mentioned. So I would hedge my bets on the Templar Assassin. It's certainly possible for it to go wrong, but if this is a comfortable and competent Templar Assassin player, I would say that this game is all right.
Okay. Now, Wraith King's picked up by Team Texas. That says to me that he's running in a Core Weaver in the offlane Templar mid, so this could be an Underlord 4 position, which honestly, Gorgon, is my favorite way to see Underlord played. I know that he's only recently come out of Captain's Mode, but as you probably know, one of my favorite things in the world is to play all-pick. And Underlord really handles that transition. He's great for setting up potential ganks early on without requiring a lot of farm because of how strong his spells are, and easily transitions into a really strong 4-core because he can farm those lanes. The second that you start to see rotations from the Weaver, Underlord can take over the farm without a second thought.
I actually think Weaver's going to be our farming carry here, and Underlord's going to be our offlane, and Wraith King is going to be a 4 spot with the Rubik. That's what I expect to see.
Okay, that's a brutal combo, Rubik and Wraith King.
Yeah, there's a lot of stun potential there, of course. The Wraith King being around with the Vampiric Aura as well will stack up very well with the Atrophy Aura from the Underlord and do quite a bit of healing onto the Weaver and Templar Assassin over time. The way that you called it is certainly an option, and Team Texas haven't phoned it in. There's the Vengeful Spirit that I mentioned. The Luna players tend to like to pair with something. The Vengeful Spirit makes the Luna much better. Yeah, I think we might actually see an aggressive tri-lane coming out of these guys as well. Vengeful Spirit, Undying Luna would be a very brutal aggressive tri-lane and give Sand King what they could expect to be a moderately favorable safe lane solo farm.
Right.
So that's kind of what I expect out of these two teams based on these drafts.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, I guess I like one of the reasons I love CSL, and I'll say this, is because the aggressive tri-lane is healthy and well here. It's not something I get to see very often in my pro coverage. Obviously, laning seems to be a lot more finely tuned here at the CSL, though. It seems like we get an aggressive tri-lane every other game. So excited to see how that one breaks down. I wouldn't be surprised to see an aggressive tri potentially even coming out of Texas with that Rubik Wraith King that you brought up. There's just a ton of damage potential there. That said, let's jump over to the game overlay, boys and girls. And this is going to be a big matchup here between, let's see, got a little freeze frame, between Texas and Michigan. Buckle in, grab your seatbelts, because this is going to be a barn burner. My name's Toffees, this is Gorgon, and we are here to bring you this matchup in the CSL. Let's do some real quick introductions here as we get underway. For the Radiant side, I don't know why their team name's not displaying, but there it is for you guys. It looks like we're going to have this is a known bug that the team names aren't showing. It was happening to us on Tuesday as well. Quite annoying, but switching lanes will be playing the Wraith King. We're going to have Cross Angel 9 on the Rubik, head towards the top of me. Max Mo on the Underlord, Purify on Ziviver, and Kuryu Sonya on the Templar Assassin.
All right, and starting on the north side of the map here for my alma mater, MSU, we've got Mercy throwing out the glaives on the Luna the God, giving him the aura on Vengeful Spirit. Over here is No Life, taking that Shadow Fiend out for a spin, and down, it looks like in an aggressive dual lane for now at least. We've got D on the Sand King, and Sup Boner is playing the Undying.
All right, that's the lineups as they are. Let's get this thing underway right now. The buzzer goes off, and both teams content to just collect their own gold runes. Guys, I'm going to give you a quick caveat. This is one of the first live ones we've done in 7.0, so if you see something, you want to see a new chart or whatever, just let us know. We put some brand new overlays together to make this game look even sweeter, and honestly, I think it's probably the best we've looked in a long time, so super hyped about that. Let's get ready, settle in. Two teams at the top of their bracket meeting in the middle lane for a showdown. No Life going to have a bit of a hard run against Kuryu, so we'll keep an eye on those two. Shouldn't be, I wouldn't say that this is probably going to be a barn burner of kills unless we see a lot of rotations, but there will be a lot of back and forth harassment coming out of these two. Where do you expect the most early action here?
It depends on where this Weaver ends up. He did pick up items as though he is planning on farming, but he didn't come into the lane right away. So presumably they're trying to fake a jungle, and they will immediately try to grab a kill here in the bottom.
Going deep. D's trying to run. Gets locked in. Nice body block by Purify. And that'll be the first kill going for the Radiant side, which I believe is Texas, correct? Yes.
Yeah. I don't think that you can justify being a Sand King into a dual stun lane with Caustic Finale first level. I know that it's very useful for harassing. It's very useful for last hitting, but a Burrow Strike may have saved his life there, as maybe a Sandstorm would have.
All right. Maximo putting some damage on God. That's really the beauty of this early Underlord. His right click very strong along with everything else he's got going on. God turns around and puts up the stun to get away. Mercy getting some free farm underneath the tower, though. Going to be very happy about that. Let's check in with our middle right now. 5-2 on the Shadow Fiend, 4-1 on Kiryu, as it's a pretty even matchup at the moment. Both teams about to have the gold runes pop up. They can decide what to do there, but it looks like Radiant still interested in potentially faking the jungle.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this Weaver's going to end up, because he doesn't really, especially until he gets the Swarm. He can kind of jungle once he gets the Swarm, but until he gets that, they're not really going to be able to. They are going to move back onto the Sand King.
Purify comes through, puts up a nice little run. D's got nowhere to go. He's out again. I don't know if you saw that rotation by Purify, but they figured out, well, hold on, we're still going. They want Sup Boner. They get in front of him. Nice body block. Here's the follow. Couple more right clicks. They shouldn't let him get, oh, they got him. Nicely done. Ends up going down to the Purify shot. D comes back with the TP, but just puts him in harm's way. Goes back behind switching lanes. The stun is off a cooldown. He'll walk off to make sure he's not caught out. Purify on the chase. He does not get the proc, and it's not going to finish him off. So Purify and switching lanes will have to back away, but a nice play. Did you see that rotation? Weaver, his team pinned out the vision, and he fake walked past here, then came back around and up with Saguchi, so they had no idea he was coming. Very good use of your opponent's ward to actually get a kill.
Yeah, that was very, very well played by UT. We are, I think, already seeing why they're one of the top teams, certainly in their bracket, if not in this division so far. But once again, like, that all comes down really to partially the positioning decisions that are being made by MSU.
Absolutely.
That's a kill that shouldn't be happening, though. A solo kill.
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't even catch it. I thought for sure she'd be fine down there with that refraction, but nice play by No Life. A much-needed kill for them at the moment.
Yeah, certainly if mid goes well here for MSU, they can recover from the soft lane, but both Sand King and Undying are very level defensive heroes. You absolutely need to get them going, and if now the supports are able to rotate in and make something happen here, and it is just straight up a support Weaver. He went for the Blight Zone, it looks like, just to help him get some early harass, and try to get gold by kills. That's a risky strategy, even for a support Weaver.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's take a look at our lanes and sort of where they're going down. We do know TA dropped. She's only 10-8 against a 13-12 Shadow Fiend, who's actually doing really well. Let's go to top where there's a fight breaking out. God is on the run as Maximo and Purify choose to prove atheism as they attack him and say, you don't matter here. The rune pops up. Maximo gets it right after the kill, so a really nice grab for the two of them. Down in the middle, though, Kiryu getting attacked. No Life doing a really good job of zoning Kiryu back. He seems to be timing those refractions really well.
Yeah, a surprisingly good job. And something that we do need to keep in mind, that this is going to be a new concept, right, for a lot of players. But Shadow Fiend, thanks to his talent tree, he can be very, very difficult to kill later on in the game. Not only is he going to get himself an extra 15% evasion if he wants it, which will really kind of mitigate a lot of what this Weaver and Wraith King bring to the table, but he's also able to amplify his own magic damage. So between the Sand King, the amp damage potentially on the Shadow Fiend, the Eclipse, really that's going to force out a pipe somewhere, and that seems to be the only hero that can really get that is going to be the Underlord. He's going to probably be the only hero that can both afford it and not have to build damage items. So they are kind of forcing the hand.
I'm going to flip us over to net worth real quick because I want us to take a look at something here. UT doing something a little bit unique in that this Weaver is not playing a traditional core role. He's playing this very aggressive old school bounty hunter sort of style where he rotates around, and that puts him up in, you know, the top farmers right now. He's doing okay. But if you look, you're going to see there's 3 cores on the side of Dire and 4 cores essentially higher than that 3rd core on the Radiant side. So his rotations are working. The question is, how risky is that?
Because if he gets down bottom.
Yeah, so here they go. So That may remove risk. Purify comes in. He accidentally body blocks. They immediately make the pull. D gets the burrow strike. He gets over and out. Nice fade bolt. They left the Undying behind. He should go down. Purify sticking around. In comes Venge to help out. And immediately, the Dire has to fall back. I mean, Radiant has to fall back. Sup Boner getting very low. He will have to use that regen to get out. Nice move on Wraith King. He's not going to be 6 yet, so he's going to go down permanently. Purify does finish the Undying. So they go 1 for 1. Really a win here for the Dire, but the big point is Purify is still getting these kills, so they can justify these rotations or the way that they're playing him.
Yeah, he is getting kills, but he is still getting less than he would be getting if he were a carry, right? And Weaver, this skill set will fall off without additional damage items, and more importantly, additional survivability items. As players are able to buy more sentries because there's more passive gold built up, as players are able to get a higher HP pool, so the right clicks aren't quite as startling to them. Bugs doesn't really fall off for a while to Swarm because the negative armor there is really substantial. But even so, this Weaver is going to need to either have the Wraith King step up soon, and by soon I mean sometime in the next 10 minutes, or UT is going to start finding themselves with difficulty dealing enough damage to win these fights.
UT's draft does seem a little bit greedy, and while they got a good early jump, it seems to me that Michigan is really kind of getting themselves back together. The 2 points here on the Burrow Strike, as you saw in the last fight, really, really effective. They're going to go for another gank in. Nice stun there on the Wraith King. He's going to push him back. Bugs from Purify. He'll put some damage on God, but he can't chase any deeper. He's going to have to wait this one out. And again, it just seems like the guys from Michigan have adjusted very well to a surprising strategy from UT that may have accounted for those early kills and have countered it pretty effectively. Also, let's talk mid, because No Life is just dominating this. I mean, look at it. It's 41 and 19.
Yeah. It is really difficult to see how a TA is going to bounce back from this with no stacks coming out of support. And remember, with the recent changes, the 7.XX changes, it's much more difficult to justify being able to go out and stacking for a hero like TA, because you need 2 supports to stack every 2 minutes in order to get the same number of Ancients, which a TA is traditionally very reliant on. They're going to try to kill No Life, and he's going to go ahead and turn it around. Oh,
Survives.
Just not able to.
Just barely pulls it off. Kuryu, they did also fail on the gank on D on the bottom. That Undying heal just too strong. So a nice pick for UT. The problem is that Luna is just getting fatter and fatter up here. Well, maybe not. She goes with the ultimate, pulls it on Maximo. Maximo might finish the job. He does! Okay, so that was an absolutely necessary kill based on where we were seeing her farm coming from. Huge pickup for UT as they get the double, 2 cores in the course of 1 minute, and that's going to put them back on track. Look at that gold. It automatically skyrockets, a 1,500 swing after those 2 picks. So UT was in trouble, but I think they're back, baby.
Positioning very well in that for his creep wave to come up right as the Eclipse came down. Like, that was very, very well predicted on his part. And with a play like that, that makes me excited to see what we're going to actually get out of Dark Rift in this game, because we should be seeing some pretty exciting stuff.
It feels like this is a pick. Maybe Maximo, like others in this chat, mainly myself, have been playing Underlord a lot, just waiting for him to come into Captain's mode, and is super hyped to sort of have a chance to show off what he can do. Now, he's much better than I am, so I'm excited to see what he shows us is possible with this Underlord. Now, let's go to God and the Super Boner as they wait for their chance to make a gank here on the mid. Kuryu's going to move forward, looks into No Life. This could be a little bit of trouble. They come out, Refraction falls off. There's the first shot, but Kuryu smelled it out and is able to back away. The TP from Purify, almost gets himself in some serious trouble. A very well-timed Shadow Rays from No Life to send a message as the Weaver TPs into base.
But at the end of the day, that's 175 gold to the Weaver, who got the Tombstone. He had to pay 50 for the TP, but now he's going to be able to go up and heal up. And that's a no cost. For a hero that's very, very golden experience dependent, that does not have very many avenues for gaining said golden experience, killing Tombstones is a fantastic catch-up.
Absolutely. Maximo harassing Mercy very effectively now. One of the things I love about this Firestorm is it's so good at zoning heroes out of last hits. Let's go back to bottom. They want to move on D. D is very far back, but just uses that Burrow Strike every time defensively. Keeps himself out of an awful lot of trouble as the stuns just are not long enough. They're opening with the Wraith King stun, followed by the Rubik telekinesis, which I think maybe is allowing that Sand King to get out because it sort of removes the maximization of the slow on the Wraith King stun.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about a hero that if Sand King's trying to walk away from an engagement, he's dead, right? If he's going to burrow strike out of any engagement, he's going to survive or escape. So the Sand King slow is probably not something that you're going to count on in that particular case anyway. But even so, point taken that they really all those kills that they got at the bottom were dependent on the fact that Sand King played very greedy at level 1, and they punished that extremely effectively. Maximo going down to a different Eclipse up top.
Very nice.
That was a combo of Magic Missile with Wave of Terror, and then, of course, the Eclipse coming down.
It's a nice rotation. It's a good combo. Switching lanes comes forward. They bring in Purify, going up to look high. Throws out the bugs, picks up, throw down. D in some trouble, finishes the job. Now they want to go after the Undying. He should be able to walk away. Purify's got to back off as the God with a very fast TP. I don't know if the God's got some sort of crazy radar, but that TP started before the gank even began. So a nice 6th sense there. Speaking of nice, Shadow Fiend's going to finish off the mid lane. Net worth for him over 5k right now. Kuryu comes back after checking Rune and will only be able to harass back the Shadow Fiend, who will now, I assume, go to jungle, pick up some farm, and maybe push top.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this Weaver scales into the game, because the way that he's building for maximum mobility, which is great. It's allowing him to get from lane to lane, and it has, paid off in a couple of instances. But if you're a support Weaver and you max out the Swarm, you're really maximizing the damage from across your team in these gank attempts. You get a lot more damage out of your teammates because of it. You get a much higher attack frequency and therefore negative armor, right? And so that benefits the damage of everyone on your team. He's going to try and solo kill God here. He's not level 6 yet.
He did a good job of just pushing him backwards. They know now that there are wards up there, so we saw them put the wards down while he was invisible. A nice little pickup. Wraith King with rotation, but just not fast enough. Such a slow hero at this stage of the game. And still rapid pinging, saying we know that they're watching us up here. In fact, Dire with a really, really heavy commitment to watching that bottom jungle entrance and exit.
Trouble brewing.
All right,
yeah,
Goldbeat is back in favor of MSU for the first time in a while, and it's really been back and forth. Do you think, who has the advantage at this stage? Is those top 2 cores on MSU really outpacing the 3 on the side of Radiant, or is Texas feeling pretty comfortable?
I feel like MSU is not in a terrible position here, and once again, the reason coming down to a 4-position Weaver, especially one that maximizes for mobility, typically has a big lull in the middle of the game where he starts to try and position out of 4 toward, a more core sort of game. So during that period, Luna's going to hit her stride. She's already on top of the net worth. She's about to get her 2nd item, and that's really where towers start to fall.
Switching lanes could be in some trouble here. TP's coming out. Stun 1, stun 2. Perfectly layered. He'll go down, but all that's going to do is make time for the rest to come in. Undying can't do anything, and down goes the Wraith King. A really nice pick off there, and they stopped the Undying TP in basically by killing the creep, so nicely executed.
Yeah, Wraith King also went for an armlet rush build, which is, that's a perfectly fine and fairly standard way to build the hero. Maybe not skipping treads quite as common, but still something that you see an awful lot. The problem is there's a lot of burst damage on this team, so if your survivability is dependent on you being able to toggle something, you're going to have a lot of trouble against this team that they group up. And as we see, the Dragonlance now out. That's your 2nd item, and towers are just being rolled through.
Yeah. So Mercy's going to come forward. It looks like Rubik's going to go ahead and steal himself a Lucent Beam. God is going to come in and help out with the push down. In comes Purify from the side, but the entire team is here on standby. The 5-man push that we have come to know and love in pub life is here in comp life now, as we see this sort of... What do you think of this patch? Are we going to see a return to Deathball full figure, or is that just something we're seeing in pubs right now?
I think you're just seeing it in pubs, and I think it depends on your skill bracket too, because I'm not seeing it in any of my pubs, but below me and above me, I know that people are seeing it. It's a viable strategy along with a lot of other viable strategies. And I think, if you've been watching professional Dota, especially or competitive level Dota, you see a lot of teams experimenting with ways to counter that. What we're not seeing a ton of is hard split push, but just about every other strategy that has been popular over the last couple of years has somebody running it these days.
Absolutely. All right, so now we're going to see a really big showdown, 5-on-5 here on the bottom tower. Sort of both teams posturing, say, well, we're both at a decent point to fight if we get the jump. And that's what it's going to come down to here, is who sort of catches the other off guard. Both teams playing the distance, happy to just chip as the creeps come in. Who's losing more by standing here is my question.
Well, it's definitely UT, right? They're already, like, they have a kill advantage, but they're sitting from behind, and
All right,
they
this could
clearly
be
don't
it.
have a
We're
good
going to go. D
initiation
comes in
moment.
and gets the stun. Nice play by Underlord. Rubik immediately popped out. Luna goes with the ultimate. Nice root on Mercy. Turns back around. Maximo on the run. That's 2. Make it 3. Go down. No life taking hits from the tower, but that's about all that's going to happen. D with the blink strike on the Wraith King just to send a message. Or is it, as Wraith King gets swapped back into the pit? He tries to hurt Mercy. Mercy says no thank you. Walks away from that. Heal from the Undying, and they keep 5 alive against the 4 who are dead, and will take the tower, send a message, go back to regen, and then push the next tower.
Radiant bottom.
Yeah, they can even drop back to the shrine, regen, and immediately push mid. And this is what I was talking about with it. UT is not getting what they need out of that long, protracted
No.
wait for an engagement, because there's no initiation potential right now.
You know,
Bugs are
they-
level 1, so they don't have the negative armor that they need to really maximize the Wraith King, who also really doesn't have much in way of items, because he did spend a lot of his effort trying to get kills, and honestly didn't come out that far ahead in terms of last hits. He's only sitting on 55 now at 16 minutes.
Absolutely, and they wanted the fight under the tower. That's what they were really hoping for. They got it under the tower. I mean, you saw No Life just taking hit after hit from the tower, but still, all 5 survived. So that sends a pretty big message to UT if they need to figure out where they're coming from. Unfortunately, that's a catch out. The roaming Weaver is not going to survive that one, as he just gets 1-2 punched and ceases to exist, deleted from the game. Switching lane is going to take some damage here as he runs for the hill. 16 seconds on his ultimate. D comes forward, doesn't quite get the blink strike. Was hoping Rubik would also try to contest, but now they're going to pull up 3 heroes. Looks like they want to try to stand their ground here at the top tower, but Michigan's just doing the 5, man. They're going to push it right on down, try to take this tower. And I don't know, if you're Texas after the last tower defense, do you come back and try again?
They honestly, they probably shouldn't, but it looks like they're going to. The Wraith King needs farm, so he just needs to go out and get something done. But they can't give up all their tier 2s or against the Luna at this stage in the game. Like, it's as good as over unless their opponents make a big mistake.
Right.
They can give up 2 of the tier 2s, though. As long as they can keep their shrines up, they should be okay. So maybe sitting just 1 or 2 heroes here to kind of slow the process down would be all right, but
It just
certainly
yeah.
the Wraith King needs to be out farming.
You got to go out and farm. You know Michigan's going to take this tower. They're just ranging it down with no life. Feels like an easy roast transition afterwards. And then regen and push on to tier 3, or I'm sorry, mid lane tier 2. I just don't know if I'm sitting there as UT and I'm watching this happen. You know they feel it, okay? So they're at a 7,500 gold lag right now against the guys from Michigan. They can feel this slipping away. I mean, do you have options other than just, hey guys, go farm and hope you don't get picked off while you're doing it?
Well, they probably wouldn't get picked off because they the one benefit to them of the strategy is they know where all 5 of their opponents
true.
are most of the time, right? So they're all together.
Looks like they're
They
gonna
are going to
contest
try to
the
defend
Roche.
this Roche.
Bugs go in comes Kuryu with the blink.
Bugs.
Nice catch on everybody. This could be big. Big explosion from the Shadow Fiend. We've lost 2, 3. Luna's down, but will it be enough? Switching lanes, putting in some serious work. That goes 3. Switching lanes goes down, but his ultimate is back up. The God dropping low, sticks around. He'll run for the high ground. D in some trouble, but they're kiting him. He's kited. Finishes off the Sand King. And they go 4 for 3. UT gets something out of that.
What's happening to Dyer's bottom?
I mean, for UT, that's a pretty good exchange.
Yeah.
They did lose the Aegis, but, 4 for 3 when you're behind, they got much more gold out of that than their opponents did, right? Like, they net gained 1,600 gold, almost
Right.
1,700 gold from that exchange. And what they're really hurting on right now is gold, is items, especially because, like, this Weaver, as a 4-position roamer, is trying to transition into a core, bought a Hand of Midas fairly late, so they need a lot of time. Fortunately, he does have the Swarm starting to get up, which means that you saw the impact in that last fight, right? Wraith King just tore through their opponents that he managed to reach like tissue paper.
Yeah,
The negative
I mean,
armor from that is really good.
The real worry, though, is one of the things you never want to hear your team say when there's a Luna opposite you is, well, we need to get more time, right? Because that Luna just keeps getting more ridiculous. And here she is right now. She's got the Helm of Dominator. She's got the Yasha. She's almost done with the Manta. And once that Manta's up with the Venge Aura, it's just going to be really tough to stand up to them in a team fight. But it's going to be almost impossible.
I mean, Firestorm should take care of the illusions relatively quickly, at least, but you're still looking at a lot of chip damage on your towers, and it's not like they have any way to bolster those towers up.
You're looking for a lot of chip damage, and while you're trying to deal with her, you've got Tombstone spewing out zombies. You've got No Life going to be sneaking in there with that finished up Silver Edge, causing a lot of trouble. I'm really curious where they're going to put themselves here. It looks like we take all 5 to top for the Radiant. UT thinking about pushing, but they're going to run into a trouble where Mercy and the rest of the team is going to lean in on the tier 2. It should just be given up. There's not much they can do to stop this unless they think she's alone, which history proves is not the case.
What UT is trying to do is they're trying to bait their opponents away from the tower. And wow, that is just eaten alive quality. I see no reason why they should have fallen back at that point. They did a gambit, right? They hung Wraith King out visibly while all 4 hung out behind Vision Sight. And they thought maybe our opponents are going to pull off the tower in order to try and get a free kill. But as you can see, they don't need to. And they're in a position where they can afford to trade a tier 1 for a tier 2.
Yeah. And honestly, a really great play by Michigan, lining up all of their heroes under smoke right here. Behind the tower range, so that they said, you know, someone's going to come out. I guarantee TA is going to try to use those side blades to clear a wave, and that'll make an easy kill for us, and it worked out in spades. Now we see a nice play forward just to slow him down a little bit. Underlord's coming out here. Wraith King's ultimate is popped. That's going to hurt them. Nice swap by the Venge to make sure No Life doesn't take more damage than is necessary. They'll take that tower and back away. They've got the double damage, though, on Shadow Fiend, so I expect them to turn around and keep moving.
Yeah, they have the Aegis on Shadow Fiend too, so they can just stand him up on high ground, let him die, and it's no problem whatsoever. The Luna all the while just chipping away at this tower, which is almost dropped. Once the armor bonus from this tower goes away, this fight should become easy for Michigan.
Speaking of fight going, D gets picked up and thrown back. Nice Shadow Fiend ultimate. It gets everybody very low. It's a 1-for-1. Support for support. Keeps chipping the tower. The armor is now down. Switching lanes got to be careful. Nice play by the Underlord to try and lock some people in. He will be putting out a lot of AoE damage. Will it be enough is the question. Shadow Fiend backs away, dodges the bug. The Undying not so lucky. The chase is on. Purify wants to finish some guys. No Life goes invisible. Nice roots. No Life goes down. Aegis is popped. Double root again. This Underlord root is doing some serious work as they pick off 3 on the high ground push. Can they make it more? No Life gonna back away. Luna watching his back as he does it. Maximo on the chase. His root is up in 3 seconds. Invis, this will reveal the Invis though, so they move through, pop the dust, make the move. Shadow Fiend will go down, but he takes one with him, which is pretty important because Underlord could have done a TP push at that point, the lead into the mid here, and at least get 1 tower out of all this trouble.
Well, they will get 1 tower, yeah. They'll likely get 2 towers out of this if they want to lean into it, because Shadow Fiend is down for 40 seconds. He's not going to buy back to defend it.
Lean they will
Luna.
Not.
Yeah, they're happy to just fall back and farm, which I think is a perfectly acceptable, safer option.
Yeah. So, that said, all the tier 2s are down. They can start working their way through these sanctuaries when Dire sees it fit to do so. MSU up by 10,000 gold right now. XP is up by a little under 4,000. It was a good win from UT on that defense, but look at that net worth chart. The problem is Shadow Fiend and especially Luna are just really, really big. It looks like she'll be going for the BKB next. Already 2k towards it as she heads down to push that bottom lane and get a little bit more farm. This Luna is my biggest problem. I just don't know if they have an answer. TA right now only has the Blightstone, the Ring, and the Blink Dagger, so she's having trouble really getting that damage output that she wants. Yeah. It looks like a mech almost done on the Undying too. That's going to be a huge problem.
Bear in mind that the relationship between TA and illusions is such that if a Psyblade hits an illusion, it stops dead. Right. It doesn't continue through an illusion. So if they don't have the ability to actually clear out these Luna illusions very quickly, then TA is risking having a difficulty clearing waves during these pushes as well, which has been a bit of a factor in some of these fights, though not a major factor so far. Rubik did just get level 2 no field. The sooner they can get that Rubik leveled up so that they have the 22% full magic resistance is going to be very, very important.
Absolutely.
The Eclipse is a big part of why these guys are being destroyed. A couple Shadow Raises and an Eclipse, and half their team is literally dead.
Absolutely. The problem is, I think by the time we see that 22% come up, my worry is that the physical damage coming out of Dire is going to be too much for them to deal with, as we see that Luna just ticking up, higher and higher. And, obviously with the Venge Aura, it just becomes almost impossible to deal with. So we'll see where they're at in that position here, as the gold is pretty much stagnated. No team willing to take a fight. No team willing to lose them right now, right? Because Michigan knows if they do what they just did, if they throw another 4 bodies into the Texas meat grinder, there's a really good chance that Texas catches up to them and can actually put up a good fight. That Wraith King survivability, the damage output potential from the Templar Assassin are pretty astronomical. So Michigan, I like what they're doing right now, playing a very smart game, waiting for their chance to make a move.
Yeah, they need to make sure that they're not giving their opponents an opportunity to farm during this, though, right? Like, they are out farming this area of the map. They really should be farming this area of the map and just give Radiant access to the stuff closest to their base.
Absolutely.
That level of choking potential is significantly increased since the map changes, where if you farm out your opponent's jungle, it takes 2 full minutes for it to respawn, right? So if you're able to just get in there once every 2 minutes, you can basically keep them from getting anything except lane creeps.
So Purify going to try to pick up the Ancients real quick before the rotation. He knows it's coming. They'll use the Fountain knowing that it's about to come off a cooldown, I would imagine, or that it's about to get picked off, as we see a nice big 5-man rotation right down towards the middle. They're pinging out the Sanctuary, saying maybe we go for it. No, they realize that there's a good chance of defending the Sanctuary. Use the bait and switch and head towards the mid instead. So once the defense shows mid, I assume they'll drop back and get the Sanctuary. But Mercy is going to take
all
this
in
down.
on this.
Look at this, all in, going for it. That's a Rax, baby. Here comes the engagement, moves in, the stun coming in from the Undying. Luna pops her ultimate, BKBs are coming out. First one down, Wraith King, but he's coming back to life. Mercy wants to move, the bounce is real. Sonya and Cross Angel suffer the wrath of it. Cross Angel barely gets out, but will it matter? Switching lanes, who just came back up, is about to go down. That is a triple. Buys back. Rubik goes down. Buyback from the Underlord. And both racks have dropped. Mercy, no life, and the rest of the crew say, we got what we wanted. Let's go pick up that Sanctuary. No big deal. Actually, they'll go regen, then pick it up potentially. And, man, that's tough. That was a huge gold for them. Double buybacks forced. 4 kills, and a Wraith King ultimate.
I will say for University of Texas, I'm very impressed that both of those players just bought back right away, didn't wait to see what MSU was going to do. It is a sign of a team that's communicating well and coordinating well, that they buy back in unison and that they do it quickly, right? There's no hemming and hawing while they're losing a chunk of tower. And because of those buybacks, the deterrent there, they didn't lose any health on either of their side towers in that, which is very important if they're going to stay in this game.
This speaks to UT. You talked about it a little bit earlier today, the idea that they played together in Division 2 last year, have been able to make the move up together, and we're seeing a lot of potential coming out of this team. They're making choices together. They're making them very quickly. Their rotations seem pretty strong. They are up against a juggernaut in MSU at the moment. That said, though, I really like what we're seeing out of UT. I think if UT goes to the tournament, which it looks like they will, and keeps developing the way that they are, this could be a competitor when we get to the LAN final. Now, smoke rotation. God is out in front of everybody. He's going to get caught. That's huge. They pick up 4. Shadow Fiend comes in, wants to get his ultimate. BKBs are popped. They just melt the Rubik down, turning back around. Sand King, too strong. AoEs all over the place. Underlord tries to save the family, but just can't do so. And Dire goes full Yakuza on the Radiant and annihilates them. Wipes them off the face of the earth. Buybacks are down, and it looks like the pile driver's headed towards the bottom lane.
That was so smart from MSU. Instead of falling back to try and save their support, they went up to the high ground and came down with the advantage. That engagement started as good as they possibly could have wanted there from Texas, right? They got one weak hero out of place, killed her immediately with high ground advantage, and 4 out of 5 teams would have fallen back into the river to try and fight that instead of going all the way around to that high ground.
The only downside of killing the Venge is she's the only one you can kill who still helps the team, and that definitely helped them put in some super nuke damage early on. That 38 damage on those glaives really adds up.
Yeah, this is... there's just not the wave clear right now for me to see UT coming back from this. I'm sure they're going to hold out till they lose the next racks, but
Oh, yeah.
nobody's even anywhere near building a Maelstrom, and they have no cleave damage. I guess the TA can kind of do her pseudo cleave to clear out waves, and she does have a Desolator up now, but Roshan is up. Honestly, MSU can lean into the center.
All right, so they are going to go ahead and get both Sanctuaries. Should set them up for a comfortable Roche. Double damage now running on the Shadow Fiend, so he'll take that and immediately go check the pit, saying, easy peasy if I can pick this up. Gold at 2,000, so he's almost done with his Eagle Song. Might be able to get it actually after the Roche. And like I said, I just don't know where UT goes after that. They're down by almost over 22,000 gold. And it'll be 25 after this Roche dies.
I'm interested to see that Weaver went for her level 15 25 damage boost instead of 7 all stats. I would have expected 7 all stats would have been the way to go there. It would have given you most of that damage, or at least about a third of the damage you would have gotten anyway. But an increase of armor, even a small increase of armor, is really important to Shadow Fiend, as is the increase in raw HP when you're dealing with this much nuke.
I gotcha.
That may not have made, because they're so far behind, that may not have ultimately made that big of a difference. But if this were a little bit of a closer game, that could have been the losing factor.
All right, final team fight gearing up to start here. They come through. The Aegis is on the Shadow Fiend as they head towards the high ground. Butterfly is done, by the way, on Shadow Fiend, so look for that to cause some serious issues as they're going to do the same thing. They're going to chip the high ground and force UT to become involved because they really want to fight with this armor buff from the tower. So Lanes will come forward, puts up a nice stun. Max comes in, gets the triple root. Nice swap by the god, but it's not going to work. Stun! Easy pick off on Wraithing. He's going to come up nice and slow. Tombstones pop. Ultimate from No Life melts him down as he respawns. What timing. And the GG comes out. It's a team wipe, baby, as they pick him off and start to move forward. Dire with an, I don't want to say easy first round win, but they definitely kick some serious. But Gorgon, as we move into game 2, who's your pick for the banned player of the game?
Well, I guess I'd go ahead and give the banned player of the game probably to the Shadow Fiend, who won his lane in an unfavorable matchup, moved in very successfully into the mid game, and was a big reason why a recovery could be made. Like the Luna did very well, but she had a much easier lane in terms of the game overall, and had a lot more health.
Absolutely. I can agree with that. I think it was a really phenomenal lane for him to go up against, though. I think the unsung hero was Luna's early game farm. She had a hard lane going up against an Underlord who has great at zoning her out, and she never let up, had amazing farm coming out of that lane, and really it's just the Spartans in general, start to finish, stayed tight against an onslaught from UT and made sure they got their farm and made their transitions. Guys, don't go anywhere. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find him at the Wonder Cow over on Twitter as well. Follow all of us at C Star League there. And a big shout out to the guys at Band and Asus Republic of Gamers for making this possible. We love you for it. Go nowhere because we got game 2 coming up in just a few minutes.